if something happens that overwhelms our government, makes conditions here either temporarily or long-term dangerous, then how do we as a community come together, invest in each other, and how does life work if, like, you wake up one morning and none of the ATMs work, or we have a grid down situation? So we don't want to replace local government. We want to be the additive. We want to be that secret weapon where we could come and say, hey, you have access to all these grassroots folks. You have the communications. And that's what we envision of our county being ready to do.
I've always said, if you want to slow down and be ineffective, get organized. Get the government involved and you won't do shit.
I mean, is there a threat to the Constitution?
There is a threat.
Is there always a threat, though?
There is always a threat, but I will say that in our country's history, I don't think that we have seen a bigger threat to the viability of the Republic since the Civil War than we do right now.
In today's episode, we sit down with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt to talk about community preparedness and disasters, geopolitics, and chemtrails. Let's go.
Yeah. It's handy that way. It's
My
nice and easy.
broke this morning.
That is so good. Somebody at some point is going to ask us, like, ooh, what's in the water up there? Why does nobody have any hair on their heads, but all over their faces?
For me, it's anthrax shots.
Oh, right on.
Oh, that'll do it, huh?
Anthrax shots?
That's a side effect.
Really?
What is an anthrax shot?
So in 9/11, going forward,
Yeah.
the government decided to start on with us. Oh, you could get anthrax on this war we go to. So we're going to give you every year an anthrax.
There's a for anthrax.
And it's worthless against weaponized anthrax. So there's that.
Oh, man.
Classic government move. Thank you.
Hey, hurry up and do an intro so I can
Yeah.
keep talking about this.
Well, we're already going to have to scrub like 5 words out of that. So if you're watching this video, you're probably wondering why this gentleman to my right is blurred out in the face. We'll get to that. With us today, we've got Brigadier General Blaine Holt, retired Air Force. He is a veteran former NATO deputy, C-17 commander, tech entrepreneur, senior Newsmax contributor, and co-founder of Restore Liberty. And he happens to live right here in North Idaho. What a treat. So we got him here in person. It's a contract, right, with Newsmax that you can't show your face on video.
That's exactly
So
correct.
that's the reason. Or it's a conspiracy theory, and we're going to talk about some cool stuff today. Could be that too. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, the viewers can't tell that I'm wearing tinfoil hat right underneath this headset. But yeah, it is a Newsmax thing. So,
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day. I know you're super busy. We had a couple of topics that we want to hit on today that are very pertinent to North Idaho. Probably the number one that we'll dive right into is the Kootenai Stability and Resilience Group. I heard you talk at Life Public House in downtown Coeur d'Alene one time and talking about that. And I was very interested. And so I wanted to dive into that. And the first thing that comes to mind when people talk about these things in North Idaho is a militia. But looking through your website, there's nothing, it's not about that.
no, it's not.
Yeah. Can you dive into like what this group is and what the purpose is?
Well, I can and I will. The first thing I want to say is what a pleasure it is to do media and a podcast here in my hometown.
Yes!
This is awesome. So
Thank you.
what a great thing. I just wish we could do it without the Newsmax blur.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Maybe some down the road sometime.
coming soon to a contract modification near you.
Yeah.
So K-SURG, here also born in Coeur d'Alene about 4 years ago was me and Darren Gobb, a retired lieutenant colonel from the Army, Black Hawk pilot. We got together. We'd been talking for a very long time. Got together here in Coeur d'Alene, and we butcher papered out over hours and hours and hours, maybe a bottle of whiskey or two, what a nonprofit, national nonprofit would look like, called Restore Liberty, as we start to watch usurpations on the Constitution, things that we had been fighting for, we thought, for 30 years. And in the course of that, the nonprofit's doing well. It's stood up. It's going fine. But in the course of that, as you start to see things from now blending to this new place, which is, we talk about a black swan, but this is like a flock of black swans. And you look at the palpable national anxiety rising. What is it rising over? It's rising over possible financial collapse, the illegal invasion that we have of folks that are being dropped off by buses and jets all across our nation. We've already seen signs of violence going across the nation. they're always trying to scare us with the next pandemic. And we all remember very, very fresh in our minds what that was like in lockdown with and how we all turned on each other. And that was rough. So there's a lot of different calamities that are present that aren't typically present in a community. So what we talked about was a program called County Guardian. County Guardian is, here in Kootenai County is what we call the Kootenai Stability and Resilience Group, or K-SURG. And it's not a militia. It's actually, it might be boring if it wasn't for those pesky black swans, but it's really about if something happens that overwhelms our government, our first responders, overwhelms us, makes conditions here either temporarily or long-term dangerous of any of those things I mentioned or more, then how do we as a community come together, invest in each other, and how does life work? How do we do life if, like, you wake up one morning and none of the ATMs work, or we have a grid down situation? Are we just going to wait for folks who wear uniforms to come around and tell us what to do? Or are we going to go grab a shovel, invest in each other, invest in our neighborhoods, and keep them resilient? And so if somebody says, well, that sounds like a militia, it's like, no, it's not really a militia. Actually, we have a committee that does logistics and transportation and analyzes how that would work in a grid down situation, or medical. We've taken some of our donations and we've applied them towards emergency meds to sustain life if we have a supply chain breakdown. We have communications. So we lose the towers, we lose our standard phones. Kootenai's got a great SMS system, but what if your SMS doesn't work? How would we get the word out to the neighborhoods that trip to Super One might cost you dearly because things are happening downtown? So we don't want to replace local government. We want to be the additive. We want to be that secret weapon where our sheriff's department, the chiefs of police, county commission, city councils could come and say, hey, you have access to all these grassroots folks. You have the communications and you've been thinking about this. Could you reach out and could you get us volunteers for this event? Or could you tell everybody in your channels it might not be safe right now to have anybody but a first responder out there? That's what we envision of our county being ready to do. And so tonight at Altar Church here locally, I'll be standing up and answering all those questions and answers because people are scared. There's people who are sit there and say, what do you got planned? This is a conspiracy. There's something weird about this. And it's like, no, we're organizing neighborhoods. We're communicating. Right. We want everybody to be prepared. And so if you want to call us a mass preppers group, no, it's not really that. It's more about this initial emergency phase. We would call that tourniquet. Put a tourniquet on the community. Yeah. And everybody, no matter what your political affiliation is, because we're divided along those lines too. I don't care if you're identify as a llama and you're working in the southern part of the county, or you're Killicami for your mommy militia out in Rockford Bay. Does not matter. We want to see everybody live and do okay. And that's what the impetus for K-SURG.
So is a lot of this about contribution and like, what is it that you can bring to the community when stuff, I mean, is that part of the preparedness to say, what is it that you're going to contribute to the community, to your neighborhood, and those types of things? You may not be the guy that's the militia. You may not be the person that knows how to prep food. You may not be the hunter. Like, what is it that you can do?
That's right.
And what are the things that we need people to be able to do?
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
We've all been given gifts and skills. Some folks who are well endowed with resources don't have 5 minutes of time to spare in their lives, but understand the value. We would say, hey, write a check. we need the money and we'll apply it in this way.
Right.
But we want the community to invest in each other. What we don't want is an overly dependence on a government that could find itself overwhelmed.
And there's a perfect example of that right now going on the East Coast, right?
There is.
I mean, obviously I get all my information from outside sources. I'm not there, but it appears that the government has failed or is failing in the response to the hurricane. And it is now a very much grassroots effort to do that.
Yeah. Well, the government and everything else, I mean, FEMA, all these different organizations, they get they get handcuffed by liability. Right. You know, I was just joking with him the other day. I was part of a USAR team down in California Regional Task Force 6. We hardly ever got deployed for anything. But, you know, I went through USAR, hazmat, all those things. I mean, and I told him, I go, you know what, that's like, to get back into it, I would love to just pack up with him and fly down to Florida,
Well, yeah.
ride this storm. And then right when things are going bad, start helping people, see who we can pull out of a bad situation. If we got to pick up bodies, whatever it is. And then people tell me, well, why don't you go get involved with FEMA then, or Red Cross? I'm like, because I know what it's like to go somewhere, sit and wait. And I hate it.
Right.
I want to go do work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I've been a part of two moderate sized town evacuations in Northern California. One was due to a dam potentially failing, and one was due to a wildfire. And it is unbelievable how fast government fails and is overwhelmed, right? Local first responders there is no 911 within an hour. You know what I mean? It's not possible to get help because everyone's tied up.
That's right.
And I don't think people realize that.
Yeah, there is a big misconception. When I was in the Pentagon, I've been a logistician in addition to flying jets.
Is that the 5-sided building?
That's the what we would call Fort Fumble, Camp Chaos. But when I was held beyond my means in there, is we were working logistics for a lot of different emergencies happening here at home and then overseas, and you hurry up and wait. So the guy and the gal with the dagger in their mouth saying, we gotta go save lives. We gotta go get these dogs into this rubble and dig people out. Yeah. So my life in the Pentagon as a staff officer at that exact same time is like, well, what did the lawyer say? Okay, well, the Secretariat didn't approve it. Okay, well, then we have to get this staff package back up to the SecDef for this. No. He's not in right now. You're going to have to. Oh, wait, no. See, your format's all wrong because this is not on what we call a JSAP document.
Right.
So
Yes.
Nobody does the bureaucracy better as they become what we call a self-licking ice cream cone. And so when you have that circular firing squad effect, what's not happening is people on the ground. Now, what we've seen on the ground in these hurricanes is reports about FEMA's blocking people from helping. FEMA's stopping these groups from assisting. I believe it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Here's why I believe it. It's not that they suddenly woke up in the morning and said, I'm from FEMA, I'm evil, I'm going to go stop this rescue dead in its tracks.
Right.
These are people who are trying to mitigate not losing their job while they do the right thing. And so when they don't have instructions or what we call a rules of engagement for the ground response, then they're paralyzed. And when they're paralyzed, the first thing a government person wants to do is hit the pause button on the entire emergency. Yeah. And so they'll tell the church groups, they'll tell these vets coming in who are like, stand back, get out of my way. I got my cape and my boots on. I'm going to go save lives.
Right.
They're like, no, we're on a pause. We got to stop until we know what we can do. And that's what we here have to shift our attention and go, well, we're watching what's going on down in the Southeast.
Right.
Maybe FEMA here locally should be answering some questions about what they would do.
There's a weird dynamic between self-responsibility and liability. And I get it, right? I mean, as law enforcement back in the day, if you let somebody pass you and go into that fire when you're supposed to do it, and that person dies, then there's a liability. And honestly, it handcuffs us from being able to do things. There's a lot of people that want to do good in this world. I've always said, if you want to slow down and be ineffective, get organized.
Yeah.
Right? Get organized and put in SOPs, get the government involved, and you won't do shit.
That's right.
I can tell you that every fireman that goes out on the line can tell you that the best time to fight a fire is on initial response on a crazy fire. You can turn your radio off and you can go do some stuff.
Yeah.
But once ICS gets there, once there's a team, once there's a plan, you find yourself sitting for 12, 24, 36 hours at a time.
People die.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It is crazy. So what here's where I made my Saul to Paul conversion on coming out of government mode and into free thinker mode.
Yeah.
It happened when I was a colonel. So that asks the question, how did you become a general if you became mind free as a colonel?
Yeah.
So they gave me the greatest command of my life. I was actually the vice commander here in Spokane at Fairchild Air Force Base. And I was so disappointed because the rumors were all, oh, you're going to be the wing commander at Charleston Air Force Base. And I was going to go home and fly my C-17. It was just, heroes welcome.
Yeah.
No, there's trouble overseas and you're leaving. You're going to command the world's largest bed and breakfast in the middle of Central Asia in Kyrgyzstan. Ooh. And it's 2009, 2010 timeframe. So you're going to show up to an eviction notice and you're going to have a big, bloody, violent revolution with massacres and all kinds of things and people getting slaughtered in the country. But at the same time, you're going to have to accommodate the McChrystal Petraeus surge so we can get 30,000 additional forces there. And you're on the hook for 98% of that. Now, when
No
you show
pressure,
up,
yeah.
when you show up, you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to fix this, because the first thing I know is that this wing probably sucks at combat. I'm going to get them ready for that. So I want everybody to get their war face on. Let's ditch the reflective belts. Let's get rid of the IDs, and we're going to go to war. And I'll put you there. And then I find out that the Kyrgyz hate our guts, and they really are going to eject us. and then suddenly I go, well, wait a minute. Okay, dang it. I've got colonels working for me. Okay, you guys handle the war. I'm going to go downtown, learn the language, become native, kind of, and get into what's going on in this society so we can stay here and do this stuff. Well, that goes on and on and on, and it goes really, really well. And now we get to this place called the massacre, and the very predictable revolution, because I knew it was coming, because I'm now talking to every element of society.
Yeah.
I'm building women's groups, I'm building schools, I'm tampering down the terrorism in the South because I'm doing all these counter things with the military. and then it comes. Now I've got lawyers working for me, well-meaning people. Sir, you can't evacuate Kyrgyz people to our base because they'll, there's laws against that. And I go, so this is when it dawned on me. You will always, there is a joint interagency task force, by the way, in our government called the Department of No. And they are powerful. And they bring all the power of government behind them. We know how to say no. No is an answer we stand by. Nobody gets fired in no. So the first thing you got to do when you're looking at these Kyrgyz babies and you got to go save them is you got to go, well, wait a minute. Let's get a few things straight. Am I a government employee? Or am I my nation's vanguard and serving my nation's interests down here? And if I cut all the crap out between me and the oath to the Constitution, that's liberating. That changes everything.
Yeah.
So then you have to come to some new realizations. And I try to encourage people who are still in government on this. First off, fire yourself. Don't let some general do it. Don't let some colonel do it. Just fire yourself. Go, you know what? These are impossible conditions. This is the end of my career and I'm fired. Yeah. Nope, no pension for me. I'm done. This is it. It's finished. Now that I know that, I can now do the right thing. And the right thing is that relationship between me and the Constitution, because it's very clear. I will support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Do you think that's a common problem? I mean, I see it. I have seen it in first responder world, right? Sure. Law enforcement, right? But so in the military, that is a struggle right now.
Oh, it is a struggle. Yeah. Because look at, and getting out of the military, let's go to Customs and Border Patrol. These are wonderful people. And gosh, they have an impossible mission, impossible task. Yeah. But they're on the border and you watch Chinese People Liberation Army walk right past them, Tren de Aragua walk right past them. And you're like, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I got a mortgage. I have a kid. I need this job.
That's it.
Right.
Dude, there's something bigger going on here.
Right.
And here's the problem. If their own leaders won't adhere to the Constitution, why would they?
It's like you purposefully put good people that have the good intentions in those spots.
Right.
You under-equip them and you handcuff them with policy.
Right.
And they can't do what they want. But they're in the position they wanted to be in.
Right.
They're serving the Constitution. They're doing those things, but they can't because they've been handcuffed and they're under-equipped.
Right.
We call it the pension trap. And
it is.
This is a thing in the first responder world, right? Like that is dangled over your head, and it is hard to walk when your mortgage and your insurance is on the line. Yeah, it's really hard to make that call.
It is absolutely blackmail.
Yep.
And as veterans groups, what we need to do, and we're doing some of it. I don't want to dilute anybody's efforts. We need to take these veterans groups and we need to love on them even more. Meaning, hey, if you give it up, come into this network. We're going to find you a job. We'll go replace all those things in your world. But if you're going to do the right thing. Oh, we're going to love on you because our country needs that. Our country needs its vanguards back. And so people will come to me and they'll go, General Holt, everything just looks hopeless. We got World War III, we got Civil War, we got all this stuff going on. And it's like, yeah, you know what? There's 17 million very well-trained vets who are pissed off. And they will do the right thing for this country still. But I learned this in Kyrgyzstan. And that's where my moment came. I actually asked to stay for another year in command, and General Petraeus said, "No, you've gone native. There's Lawrence of Arabia, and there's Blano of Bishkek. You got to go now." And so then they sent me to a PTSD center for that type of problem, which is the Council on Foreign Relations. They made me a military fellow there.
No way.
Oh my gosh.
This is, man, it just blows my mind because, people have, you talk about the veterans and everything else, like people are getting they're getting emotionally cornered.
Yeah.
If you look at any major war or anything else, and I mean, you can mark this all the way through, right? You can mark this through the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, World War II, World War I, all of it, right? There's an emotional connection that gets people. I mean, when you hear that 16-year-olds are trying to pose as an 18-year-old to go to war,
Right.
There's an emotional draw there. And we haven't had that emotional draw for a long time. You look back at Pearl Harbor, something happened to us that made people go, you know what? I'm willing to give up everything for this.
Yeah.
And
Even 9/11, it doesn't, you don't even have to go back to that
exactly.
far. Right.
Okay. Yeah. So we had that as well. Right. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that we're getting to a point where there's enough people that believe in the Constitution that are watching the power of the Constitution fade. Yeah. And they're getting backed into an emotional corner. Right. And there is a point where you back anybody into a corner, finally people fight. Yeah. And I don't know where that is. I'm not trying to imply anything. I'm just saying people are getting backed in.
There's a history here, a recent history. Go to Tahrir Square and the Egyptians and Arab Spring. So I've been to Cairo many times before that had happened. You know, Army guys don't believe in the full flight. For some reason, they only believe in half the flight, and they want you to open the doors and let them out. And so in Egypt, we would do a lot of airdrops and throw the Army out the back. Well, you start to observe the society and the culture, and it's a police state. I mean, it's a complete police state. You don't scratch your cheek without having permission. Now, get to Tahrir Square. What happened before that? We had this thing called quantitative easing. Aren't we so brilliant? We're going to print ourselves out of our problems because we had the 2008 financial crisis. And by gosh, we're going to make interest rates cheap again because, money. So here we are. Then what does quantitative easing do in the macroeconomics? And this is why we don't teach economics, I guess, to our military. They need to understand it. It makes commodities hyper expensive really quickly. And so what happens is food in those markets soared. Like you want a piece of corn? Forget it. That's a year's worth of wages. Not going to happen. So now what you're getting at, Dave, is so very important. When you start to take away things people have that they need for life, and when you have a man who understands very well the police state of Egypt, our friend, when you understand that and you watch your little girl die in your arms because you can't feed her, you're in a new category of humanity called nothing to lose. And nothing to lose means a gun in Tahrir Square. Yeah, I'm there. I'll go do that. And so the point about our Constitution is, first off, I had this argument, I told you about my shadow government time with the Council on Foreign Relations. I was actually in a place where they were evangelizing us on the beauty of quantitative easing and why we still risk the world, the United States losing reserve currency. And I'm sitting next to the banker of OpenSociety.org, who is connected to George Soros, who is sitting one row in front of me, the seat in front of me. He's sitting right in front of me, the Sith Lord. And so as a mouthy colonel, I lean over to my banker buddy.
Yeah.
And I go, it seems to me that you bankers, because Alan Greenspan was the one making the speech.
Yeah.
And he goes, it seems to me that you guys think you're the reason we have world reserve currency, that you guys think it's you and that you actually control whether we have it or we lose it. And he said, yeah, well, what's your point? And I go, no, that's actually silly. If your brilliance kept us with world reserve currency status, well, we'd have lost that a long time ago because you guys aren't that brilliant. And he said, and now guess who in front of me is starting to get a little agitated because he's eavesdropping. And
that's awesome.
I noticed he's
You
eavesdropping.
spoke just loud enough, didn't you?
I've done this before.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Just above a whisper.
Ted and I were having a talk. And so we'll call it a TED Talk. And so
did you call him a Sith Lord when you were?
That probably would have got me a new assignment. So but I did get to go to the principal's office the next day for the president of CFR. So let me know how the donors list works at CFR. So I told him, I said, no, it's not that at all. I said, actually, if you want to know why we have the chance to be the world reserve currency, you should probably look at the military fellows in this room and think of the entire United States military, because we're the ones that have guarded that. We're the ones that have underwritten the world system. We are the world order, actually. Without the United States military, none of this stuff works. I said, so we just get irritated that you guys send us off to wars that have no conclusion and no purpose and no meaning, and we lose blood and treasure, but we understand how it benefits here. Don't think we're that naive. I said, here's why we have the world reserve currency. It's called the United States Constitution, and it's the world's most perfect governing document. There hasn't been one like it, nothing close, nothing better. It has warts. It's routinely insulted. Your tribe is repugnant to this document all the time. You'd much rather we were just lemmings and thought, whatever you wanted us to think. But it's not that way. And now the big guy, level 7 evil wizard, he is turning around on me and looking, he goes, who are you? And that's what Soros asked me. And I said, oh, well, I'm Colonel Blaine Holt. And I smiled right at him, just like I do on Newsmax every night. And then he and I had a nice little chat about the Constitution for a little bit.
Yeah.
And, why it wasn't the families that go back hundreds of years that have, provided us with a pittance of money while they take over entire swaths of countries. And then the next morning, like I said, I got to go sit with the president of CFR, who kind of let me know that wasn't very appreciated. And then a month and a half later, we did it again.
Do you feel like, are we legitimately at risk of losing that power in the world, our government, our military?
So this is the cool part. To quote Winston Churchill, or to paraphrase him, I won't quote him, but he said, God looks after drunks and the United States of America. and it's really true, because you would sit here right now with all our repugnant behavior, and I'm talking about all of the coups, all of the neocons getting in and threatening countries like Sudan and others with, if you don't play ball with us, we'll trash your currency, we'll pull your loan guarantees, we'll do whatever. So, we think these things are just basically tribe X versus tribe A in a country, and nothing could be further from the truth, especially if that country's got some resources like, oh, you got diamonds here. Well, that is interesting. Yeah. You would say, looking at the world board today, that this BRICS Plus thing, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and all the 39 countries who want to be a part of it, including our great ally, staunch ally, Turkey, which undermines us at every conceivable step. You would think, they're going to meet in a week or in 2 weeks in Kazan, Russia, and they're going to talk about disintermediating the dollar. What does that mean? That means get rid of the dollar. Dollar is no longer the big deal because the Americans have abused it so much. And what we'll do is we'll have the BRICS Plus currency, and this will be free, and you won't have any judgment, no social scores associated with that. It'll be on a digital currency basis.
Oh my God.
And you can walk into that. Now, what Americans don't realize is if they were actually going to pull that off, we're deep, deep trouble. We're in deep trouble. Who do you think buys our treasuries then? Nobody, actually. Right. So the good news, here's where God starts looking after us, because we are the United States and we're drunk. But if you look at what's happening on the world table right now, North Korea is having a real problem with China. They're not getting along. Now, nobody really understands that, but it's really getting quite serious. Kim Jong-un does not want to do what Xi wants to do. Xi Jinping in China is managing a complete meltdown and the potential end of that dynasty, the Chinese Communist Party. I'll just call that whole thing a dynasty.
Well, how do you fix that? You go after Taiwan?
He's not going to go after Taiwan. He doesn't, because he can't trust his military, because he tried to purge. He's been purging them. And actually, Taiwan could open up a pretty formidable can of whoop butt. That little island packs a punch. 3 missiles at the Three Gorges Dam. You got a problem.
Yeah.
So does he do something in the Philippines? Who knows? But he's having a problem with Russia. Russia wants a better oil deal. So they've canceled their pipeline arrangements. They've never had a marriage that's lasted more than a year or two. And this one's not lasting very well. India does not want China in charge. So they're blowing up this BRICS idea and they're making trouble. Brazil is a banana case that had a very questionable election, and they're having economic problems. And Lula's finding out that he's got more problems at home than he does with this BRICS stuff. So if you start to look at it, they're all piling in to Kazan on the 22nd, and they're going to try to pretend that they all get along. I will be very shocked if they get anything out of that conference that looks like it's going to take out the U.S. dollar, meaning Okay, I get it. It's a dollar. We've devalued it. We've peed all over it. But it's the best game in town. Why? Gets back to the same argument I had with Soros. It's the United States Constitution. There is a reason why so many countries put their entire wealth into the vaults of the Bank of New York. It's because we still adhere to our Constitution. We still have rule of law. It might be in the way of some different political organizations in the country right now that would love to see that go away. Let's get to your Second Amendment. It is a booger for them. They would really like to be able to take your stuff or your speech.
Taking the Second Amendment is damn near impossible. I think it'd be easier to capsize the dollar than it would be to take.
Admiral Yamamoto agreed with you. And that's what he taught the emperor, to keep them from actually thinking they could go beyond Pearl Harbor.
You can't.
He said guns in America are like blades of grass.
You have 380 million armed civilians.
That's right.
Well, I guess half of them. So half of them would be.
Well,
half of them would be armed.
Tim Waltz would like to take those away from you, and falling back on his incredible combat experience. He didn't have that.
Is there a threat to the Constitution?
There is a threat.
Is there always a threat, though?
There is always a threat. I don't, I hate to be hyperbolic, but I will say that in our country's history, and I am a history nerd, I don't think that we have seen a bigger threat to the viability of the republic since the Civil War. Than we do right now. And I do think that if you watch the trend line of this national security team and domestic security team, starting 4 years ago to right now, if they're allowed to continue that trend line, it won't be me who's the problem of is the republic viable? There'll be whole states saying, I don't know if we're in on the grand bargain. They're in breach of the Constitution right now. So then answer me this. Why is the 10th Amendment not the law of the land until such time as they're not in violation of Article 4, Section 4, the responsibility to protect the United States and its security? I'll wait.
Yeah. You bring up the Civil War, and there was an obvious political divide during the Civil War, but it was also a lot more geographical.
It was.
And I think that, that implied that we're not like that now. We definitely have the political divide, but we're not as geographical as the Civil War was.
Right. So who's your buddy?
Right. Exactly. And I think that, I brought this up forever. I've told people, I'm like, look, the U.S. will not be around forever. There's never been a nation that has survived history, right? Sure. Like everything. And that doesn't mean that it's now. It doesn't mean it's 100 years. But there is a termination to just about anything. And when you see the Civil War, there was the possibility of creating two states. Now, I don't know what it is. Like if something were to happen, it's like, what do you end up with? What are the fragments that happen?
Yeah. So you've got three categories in this. First off, and I'm writing a book about it. It's we're in a Civil War kind of environment or a season that is up against a technology backdrop called fifth generation warfare. So, you have deep fakes, you've got cyber warfare, grid down warfare, you've got influence ops, you've got all those things that weren't present the last time. The other thing is, could you call a Tren de Aragua takeover of Denver, Colorado a civil war, or is it a foreign invasion? Which one is it? The answer is yes. So the point is, you have this head on a swivel time where it's, are we in a civil war? Are we in a foreign invasion? Are we in a global World War III type situation? Do we have Manchurian candidates running the government that have to be dealt with? Is it the government versus the people?
Right.
What you have to do is start to sort that stuff out and then look for what the opportunities are. I think we're in a historical chapter that is what I would call the great warning. Don't take this place for granted. Don't take your constitution and your state for granted. You've been in a boiling frog bowl now for 4 years minimum. And people are now, what I love is I'm just watching thousands and thousands of people every single day waking up going, hey, I didn't, I'm talking about Democrats and liberals going, I didn't sign up for this. This isn't what I wanted.
Right.
So, when I was a kid, I lived in Hong Kong. And I in this late 70s, and I did go into China. I was there in Canton, got to see human slavery and what slavery and communism looks like. That's weird because
slavery out in the open.
Yeah, when Mao sold communism and Marxism to the masses and the long march then ensued, it all sounded so good. It all just sounded so marvelous. It was so appealing. Well, guess what? That's what's happening right now. Only we've institutionalized it. It's in our schools. Yeah. It's in our military. First steps for me is not go find the newest wonder weapon that we need to field to get the military ready. I do the opposite. I'd start crushing monopolies that support the military. And the other part is this woke Marxism, DEI stuff has got to get out. We have to have a purge of leadership, and we have to put back together again a meritocracy and a warrior's ethos about protection of the United States.
Yeah.
Pretty simple.
I got
Is it?
No, I got a question
not really. Sorry.
I got a question that you probably have to be pretty vague on, but just coming from the military and where you were at. But before I do that, can you just answer a question? Can you tell him that the pyramids were built by people and not aliens?
No, he's not going to tell you that.
Will you please tell him that they were built by people?
Because he knows you're wrong.
Because if you don't, then we're gonna have to go off on another subject right now.
We're
okay.
there.
That was a tangent, Dave.
Listen, he constantly is like, dude, it was built by aliens. I'm like, listen, man, if you put 100,000 people to work for 30 years, they're going to build something pretty cool. Yeah. It takes a long time, but you can do it.
Maybe.
Yeah. And all they had to do was call the kids in Maya and ask them how they built their pyramids, right? So they just needed to go make a few GeoSat phone calls. Oh, wait.
Exactly.
It's a pretty simple structure, man. If I go out into
I'm feeling like he's on my team.
Negative, dude. If I go out into the forest for a long enough time, I'm going to build some sort of pyramid type structure.
If you put some bronze in the ground, you can actually get on the ley lines, as they're called, and just fire right up with the pyramid builders, either in Asia or in the Maya.
You open a can of worms, Dave. You open a can of worms.
Yeah, I'll go down this.
When I was Scrappy Colonel Blaine at CFR, I was asked to come to a school for the gifted in New York City. That should always give you caution. And I'm at their chemistry class at this high school. And the high school, I finish up, I'm talking about fifth gen warfare, all these future technologies that are out there, things that we can do, because I know Dave wants to go there.
Yeah.
I'll go there.
And so
don't try to pitch me that the iPhone 18 is the best thing you got. Okay.
Oh, no, I'm not getting that. So we're talking about all these technologies. We're covering all the singularity stuff with Kurzweil and all this really awesome talk with the kids. And then I go, okay, last question, because your period's up and I'm leaving. And the teacher says, I want this question. And I'm in my dress blues. And she goes, Colonel Holt, we all know that you know about Area 51. And we want answers now. And so what I do is I look at the kid who's sitting at the back of the class near the door.
Yeah.
And I go, all right, go close the door.
Yes.
And everybody's eyes go, whoa. And she gets up and she goes and closes the door. I sit down. I said, okay, it's a small group. We don't need this getting too far asunder. I certainly don't want to see this on the media. Just tell them Colonel Brown told you or something like that. And they're all just getting, whoa, here we go.
Yeah.
And I go, so Area 51's been kind of dormant for a while. But then there's Area 72, Area 102 Alpha, Area 74. Oh my gosh, the things that are happening there. Yeah, that's where it's really happening right now. Anyway, I hope that helps. I got to go.
That is awesome. You know what's funny? Every time we fly, I had somebody ask me like, "Where's Area 51?" I'm like, "Well, look at the plane map, and you can see everything going around this area right here."
Right.
I've seen some weird stuff out there too.
There is weird stuff out there.
Real quick,
scientists here locally doing communication stuff down there.
Oh, no doubt.
That is out of control. I mean, really, honestly, it's mind-blowing stuff.
And honestly, it doesn't really intrigue me too much, Area 51. It really doesn't. I'm not too much with the conspiracy of like, there's got to be secure areas where we can test things, where we can check things out, where we can do stuff like that. Just exists. It's really not my problem.
But it's not there. But that's the smoke screen at this point.
Really weird though. And then I have that question I want to ask you real quick. Right. But we were out, my dad and I were on vacation one time, and we pulled out, and it's happened to me twice. It happened on the way up here with my wife and kids. Weirdest thing. We're driving out in the middle of Nevada, and we know that we're in the area of Area 51. Like, it's over those mountains. It's over in that area, whatever. And I'm 10 years old, and I'm all like looking. I'm like, I'm going to see something. This is cool. And we're driving, and all of a sudden there's a dude sitting in the middle of the road with a stop sign. Yeah. And we're like, all right. And so there's a dude with a stop sign. and he's in like a Ford Ranger, right? No ID, no nothing, just a stop sign. We're like, all right, so we stop here. And now, cars are starting to back up. It's on one of those really desolate roads. I mean, in an hour, there was like 5, 6 cars there. And then I can see the other guy. It's just this big, long road, and probably about 3 miles in front of us, you can see the other guy, and the traffic stopped over there. And there's nothing going on in between. And I'm like,
so annoying.
Okay, this is weird. And then we see this truck driving, it looked like 60, 70 miles an hour out in the middle of the desert, okay, coming towards the road. And keep in mind, there's no geography out here. Okay. Right. This is just a flat land.
Yeah.
Okay. No roads. And you see this flatbed truck, big semi driving super fast, comes up and gets on the road where we were at, gets on the road, drives down to about where the other person is, gets back off and goes right back into the same desert. And then the guys throw their things in the truck and leave. And I'm like, this is bullshit. They do this just so that people like me are like, what in the hell? Is there something there that they had to go around? Because I don't see anything.
You're a paying tourist. We do this for you.
I'm not kidding you. I'm like, they paid these guys $15 to go stand out here and do this. It's driving me crazy. Anyways.
If you were a frat kid at a local college, wouldn't you do that?
I would have jumped on.
All day.
It had something strapped down on the back of it. And I'm like, that's an alien. That's for sure an alien. They got to transport him in that thing. Anyways, so my question to you, this is a big thing right now, right? A lot of people are worried about world conflict. I mean, you can click on Yahoo News or anything else, and all you're seeing is like, oh, there's this threat from Putin on this, and there's nuclear war here, and all these things. In your opinion, like I said, I know you may need to be vague on some of this, but how confident are you in the ability of the U.S. to defend itself in a major worldwide conflict?
I am confident of that, and let's add to the list. You could come watch Blaine Holt on Newsmax, but I am confident in our technology in its current state and our people in their current state to defend themselves. I don't like the trend lines. The woke DEI stuff is not putting the bestest and the brightest into the positions that matter the most. So if you are in a flying squadron, do you want the red-headed cucumber who identifies as a penguin? No.
Only if he's the best
Only if
pilot.
He can drop the bombs on target all day, every day. And but honestly, I know of C-17 flight decks out there where they are the crew is terrified to talk to each other because they might offend each other.
Oh boy,
that can't happen.
Fuck that.
Yeah, I know. Amen. It can't happen, but it is happening. When Kabul fell, I had C-17 crew folks calling me. I was doing grief counseling for them because of the stuff that they were going through. And then they go on into this buzzsaw where, our wonderful crew from my old squadron, the 16th Airlift Squadron, made a command decision, hauled out 850 people dropping from their airplane. John Kirby, great hair, awesome hair. You have to admit that. But Kirby is out there when he's asked, are they going to investigate this crew for wrongdoing because they hauled out 850 people and the C-17 can only haul 300. And he said, well, yeah, we're going to be looking into that. I was on the phones with everybody I know who ever wore rank or was wearing rank at the time, was like, oh no, if you want to ignite veterans across the entire nation, you do anything to that air crew other than put DFCs on them, Distinguished Flying Crosses. And that's what they got. And the whole point is that could we against a great threat pull our heads out of our butts and field the world's greatest military to defend ourselves? Oh, you bet your butt we could.
Yeah.
And the reason is, again, our Constitution, our freedoms, and our system. So there is Airman Schmedley. Airman Schmedley goes to work, and Airman Schmedley does his stuff, never says much, but then at home, he is learning what he learned at work, and he's now getting into quantum physics, and he's testing frequency bands, and he's becoming the next big defense contractor. It's just nobody knows it because Schmedley's learning stuff in his day job that the others don't know, meaning they're innovative.
Yeah.
The Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coasties, they're all very innovative because this bureaucracy, it takes things full circle. Yep. When you talk about the Fort Fumble, Camp Chaos, the bureaucracy, the big suits, the windbags, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. When they are over such bright, amazing people, the bright, amazing people will take that creativity, and it's path of least resistance. It's like electricity. It will find its target.
Right. And
so just like our Sons of Liberty at our start, who were, golly, man, these guys had a bad temper because 2% tax, and that's what got you going?
Yeah,
You're grabbing a musket over 2%?
We're at 35, 40 right now?
Yeah, right. Stamp Act? Was that really that bad?
Jeez.
So
I don't even like tea.
What happens is with Americans, and this is my next Churchill quote that I absolutely adore, is you can always trust the Americans to do the right thing after they've tried everything else. And that's exactly where we're at. And so could we defeat a great enemy? Well, yes. Would we be in a lot of pain, and would we have to endure a lot? Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there PLA members here in our country right now? There absolutely are.
Right.
Are there actors from Iran that could be turned on a dime if Israel goes and pancakes them?
Yeah.
That's my number one worry for the United States right now, is terror cells get activated.
Well, I mean, the thing is like, especially with technology, which there's a lot of stuff you've probably been exposed to that we're not aware of yet. You know, I read Richard Marcinko's book, Road Warrior.
That's great.
And
Book.
Reading back in, you know, when he was first forming SEAL Team 6, or the idea of it, when he's talking about using a sat phone that sits in his sock. And I'm like, what year did you say?
Yep.
Because I got my first phone with Snake in 2000.
That's right. 90 pounds of batteries, whether you liked it or not.
So the fact that, you know, technology is always behind for two reasons. One is because there's no money in advancing people all the way up. There's steps. Well, this is a little bit better and we can sell it for this amount. This is a little bit better, even though you could go here. People have a tendency, they're looking for strategic markets. But like you said, using people that are smart, that have innovation, that can create these phones and everything else, as long as the government knows how to get the technology and how to utilize it for themselves, they don't have to hire those people directly to do it. They're able to set people free. And in their goodwill, they create technology that we can use.
I call them free-range scientists.
Yeah.
I'm building a company right now, Zerian Aerospace, that is, that's what we will be doing. Our R&D division, we'll be taking all this best-in-show science guys, but you have your project, and then you are free-range. Hey, metallurgy guy, go hang out with hydrogen gal. Hey, blockchain whiz kid, go hang out with quantum frequency person.
Yeah.
And start to incubate those things. That's the spirit of America.
Right.
That's where the good stuff is.
Well, I mean, and there's stuff I think the thing that makes people nervous is because we don't know the technology that we have. Like, we don't know.
Some of us do.
Some of us do, right? But that's the thing. As a whole, like, we don't know if we go to war, what is it that actually defends us? I'm not going to sit here and say that the F-35 is like the best thing we got. I'm just not going to say it.
Because you've got integrity and you want to be ethical, and so you're speaking the truth.
That's what it, right? Like, we don't put those things. There's a reason not to put that stuff out there too. And so I think that's one of those things that a lot of people are nervous about. Like, where are we as a country?
Do you know what else we can do that we don't do? And I've seen this throughout my military career, is you'll see a series of weapons and capabilities that were meant to be a certain way because we're idiots at the Pentagon level. We buy capabilities. We don't buy things contemplating a threat. So we're not threat-based budgeters, we're capabilities-based budgeters. And it's like, hey, we need a molecular vaporizer. And it's like, okay, that sounds really sexy. What's a molecular vaporizer? Well, we don't know, but we need one. And it's going to be great. And we've got funding, billions of dollars of funding for the molecular vaporizer, but we've got to have one now because America depends on it. And before you know it, everybody's like, what the hell's it? I don't know, but we've got a molecular vaporizer and we're going to be able to use it. Now you've got war colleges training on how to use the molecular vaporizer. But that we don't even know what that is. That's what they do. Let's go get a capability. Now, if you're the graybeard, ticked off, very cynical colonel who's a cubicle dweller in cubicle 53 on the E-ring of the Pentagon, you know that we have a unique war situation in front of us that's going to require us to win the war. That's when you start to look at the menu of what's available and you start pulling things that weren't really even meant to ever work together. So now go to that beautiful part of military history in Afghanistan. I know it's going to be hard to find it, but it's there. In 2001, when that war was so young and innocent, I mean, these were wonderful days. We're going to go win the war, and victory was on our mouths.
Yeah, America.
I was
pumped up. Yeah.
I was a major. So stupid. We're going to win the war, right? Well, are we? I mean, we're going to fight terrorism wherever it exists. Really? Is this like the war on guns? Is it a war on guns? So what we did in that war was we knew that the terrain was rugged. We had the lessons of the Soviet Union fresh on our minds. We had our own Vietnam ghosts fresh on our minds. And so we started to look at the Northern Alliance as a partner, okay, you know what? They're not Cub Scouts. These are not people you want to bring home to mama, but man, they know war, and they know war in that region. So what if we take modern day capabilities and then unconventional capabilities like special operations warfare? So you've got special warfare, you've got what we would call the stuff we normally have on the shelf, like a B-52, a B-1, dog name Rex. You got to have dog name Rex or you're in trouble. And then you mash up with Urdu speakers and Pashtun speakers with General Dostrom and the Northern Alliance. And they're fighting wars basically on a 9th, 10th century model. So you blend those things together. Now you've got an airman who's a PJ, who's got those 90 pounds of batteries on his backpack on a horse. And they go forward, and you see thousands and thousands of Taliban mobbing about to come down onto the Northern Alliance. And the airman's like, do you want that removed? Yeah, we need that removed or they're going to come kill us. It's like, okay. So he calls up B-52 that just left station off of Diego Garcia. It's about 100 miles off the coast of Pakistan, and says, yeah, I need 4 JDAMs ordered up. Here's your coordinates. If you can take care of that, that'd be great. Ooh. And 25 minutes later, boom, you've got the molecular vaporizer in action, and you didn't even know you had one. And and that's where America, she is at her best. But I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to self-indict myself here. This type of innovation does not come from general officers. This does not come from colonels. Yeah. Okay. This comes from NCOs. This comes from iron captains and majors, the people who are pissed off and very cynical about the military every single day. They grab their lunchbox, they go in. All I know is today's going to suck. And then the statement after that is go ahead and embrace the suck, because this is what suck is.
Oh, I know. Embrace the suck.
Oh, yeah. And then the Marines, they're like, well, this doesn't suck enough. I'd like it to suck a lot more. And this is where
Let's go to 29 Palms.
Yeah, this is where American innovation comes from. That's why I sleep better at night. And then I also sleep better at night domestically. So it's like, okay, Mayorkas, Harris, you guys can open up the door. You can let millions of your best friends in, and they want to come open up a can of whoop butt on us. But when we start to see this stuff coagulate and organize in terms of organized terror events against us, like I said, there's 17 million of us out in the country, and we're called free range veterans. Yeah. And we plan to stand by our communities.
Yeah. I think that's pretty neat. Seth says it all the time. What do you say about North Idaho?
It is the highest concentration of veterans and retired and current law enforcement in the world.
That's right.
I stand by that.
Yeah,
I'm sure it's true.
It's crazy.
I knew when I was the vice commander at Fairchild for that tour there, I was like, I don't know where the Lord sent me next, but I know where I'm going to end up.
Yeah.
I want to be here.
Yeah. Yep. Can we talk about drones real quick?
Yeah.
Because this is a big topic for me. I got somehow the Ukrainian drone videos got into my feed on Instagram, and now that's all I see, or X, whatever. And
have you released your video yet?
Yeah, it went out.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I did a gun law video, and I made this really cool intro. I'll have Bob cut it in, and it's a Ukrainian drone attack on me, and then it's cool. It's cool. It's a little film. Anyway, I nerded out over that, but I legitimately, it has changed the face of warfare. It has. And it almost makes all of these huge technologies and these expensive tanks and all this stuff, it's like obsolete
for now.
Yeah, for now. So what's the next thing, right? Yeah, like
so drones, especially in the case of Ukraine, and full disclosure, I do consult with some of the members of the Ministry of Defense in Ukraine, especially in the earlier part of the war, talking about strategy, talking about drones. And the drones have fulfilled a niche in that war that was not going to be available to them if they had fought the war under what practitioners in the profession of arms would have said, here's how you're going to get at your military objectives. Let me make it really simple. We're the politicians. We're going to fight the war wrong. We're the military, and we're wearing muzzles over our faces because you won't listen to good military advice about what you're trying to achieve here. So first off, it was a deterrable war. Didn't have to have that war, but that argument's gone. So when we get to this place called Ukraine, the first thing that we could have done is we could have told Russia, okay, have your war, but we're going to impose a no-fly zone. If it flies, it dies. And that's just the way it is. So you can be as mad as you want, but we're going to have a no-fly zone. And we're certainly going to have a humanitarian fly zone. And if you think that we're not going to drop your MiGs out of the sky, go back to Turkey when we did it then. Go back when we vaporized your Wagner group in Syria. And I didn't mean Turkey, I meant Syria. So, so then what that means is we're going to have a misuse of air power. You've got helicopters, you've got the Russian fighters. Nobody is really fighting this war from an air power perspective the way that we would fight it in the U.S. If you go back to Afghanistan, air superiority. Who had it? We did. Same thing with Iraq. So we demand that we have air superiority wherever we go. We yielded it. In this war, it was yielded. What does that open up? That opens up a complete niche for the drone kids to come in, weaponize drones, keep building them. And by the way, when you take drone technology and you mash it up against who was the best hacking group the world over? Nobody even close. The Ukrainians. The Ukrainians have always been the world's best hackers. So if you take the world's best hackers and you put them up against drone technology, it's kind of a peanut butter and chocolate situation. You mash those things up, and now you get some pretty damn good drones that can go get some really good stuff. Now, here's why I think the drone thing, it's always going to be pervasive, but it's never going to be a war killer. Here's why, or a war winner. Because electronic warfare is so far along. If we had problems like that here, where you have drones coming up and they're laying waste to people, we're going to put things into play that make the drone fall apart before it ever can get to where it needs to get to. And those technologies, there's just a little bit of that in Ukraine right now, but it's not mass.
Somebody sent me a website. I can't remember. It's a drone company, and they also make this thing that looks like a rifle, and it's
right.
not a kinetic weapon, but some kind of EMP or something that will knock a drone out of the sky.
It's a beam. And what you're doing is you're interfering with the frequencies that drone needs to communicate with itself. And the trick is, so then it's a cat and mouse game, right? So then the drone says, okay, fine. I see we're losing on this frequency. Let's change frequency set and we'll change this. And now we're impervious to that. No, you're not, because they can do the same thing. And so it's back and forth and back and forth. What the Russians are doing, in Kursk and is they're having tremendous success with two types of weapons, just outright shotguns. So birdshot, pretty effective, especially in close in combat. The second thing that's very effective is a type of shotgun shell that will throw nets, and they really goober up a drone really quickly. So
that's cool.
Yeah. So it's cat and mouse, and it spirals. Where I would watch is what's going to be over the horizon as I take drone technology, deep fake technology, I take cyber technology, and I take some kinetic technology, and I blend it all together and I put it into position so that one minute you think, oh, that's just a campus security drone. It's a very nice little drone. It takes care of students so that they don't get mugged. Well, how did that drone just take out that building? Oh, it was repurposed, and somebody hung some weapons on it.
It was repurposed.
So, yeah, I mean, that repurposing in military is the thing. That's innovation. There's another word for it.
That's freaking nuts, man.
Yeah.
Dave, do you want to hit the big question that you were curious about?
What? No, I asked
Things in the sky.
the things in the sky.
Oh, I thought you wanted to talk about chemtrails.
Oh, no, I didn't want to talk about. Oh, no, we were talking early. No, I honestly could care less about this freaking chemtrail thing.
Can you settle this debate? Because I've always been under the impression that it's water vapor coming behind a jet.
Oh, I used to be like you.
Yeah. Okay. So lay it on me. Lay it on me. I mean, I've never flown anything, so I don't really know.
So when I got out of the military, for 2 to 3 years, as a pilot who's flown for 30 years, big jets, I used to help people with this. I thought.
Yeah.
Oh no, there's no chemtrails. Listen, what you're looking at is really what we call contrails. And
Contrails. There you go. All right.
Yeah, it's contrails, and we burn vapor off of. We burn the vapor, it gets condensated, and now you see this streak across the sky. Just let me pat you on the head.
Killing my theory, dude.
Dear mortal, let me pat you on the head and go about your business, citizen. Everything is
out
fine.
of this right now.
So then, and then, it used to be cute. I used to have a fake little switch on my truck that said chemtrail activate.
That's awesome.
That is so much fun. And so then we get to this place where we find out that contract pilots really actually do have tanks and sprayers in their airplanes, and they're paid by private groups. And that is actually looked the other way, or it's supported by the FAA to allow aluminum bromide and other types of chemicals to be sprayed into the sky on a grid basis. And so when you see something that doesn't look like just a ordinary over Coeur d'Alene jet where there's 4 streaks that are contrails on their way to Seattle. But you see more like a sheet of a graph paper where it's like crisscross, crisscross, crisscross. Oh no, that is definitely a chemtrail. That is somebody spraying crap into the atmosphere.
What's the purpose?
Yeah.
Well, Bill Gates would tell you better than me because it's his program.
He has my best interest in mind, doesn't he?
He's a dick.
Okay.
So it's like that, just the opposite.
Oh,
so,
damn it.
Right. Right. If this is opposite day, yes, he loves you. But the thing about that is, you know, there are people that really are ready to take action on this thing they call climate change. And whether they're true blue to those beliefs or whether they're, it's all just a big thing. He absolutely believes he can put things into the sky that are going to limit the sun's access to our surface. And he thinks he's doing right. I mean, that's his stated purpose. I don't believe it is, but I also don't want to speculate on what that could be because I forgot my Reynolds wrap and I'm not going to make a hat right now.
This makes sense because I stopped wearing sunscreen this year and I didn't get sunburned at all. So clearly Bill Gates is on something there.
Yeah. Because we went on the water twice.
Yeah, well, there's that. Yeah.
But there's other things that he's into. So he does over his chemtrails over Florida skies, which I don't know how he gets permission to do this either, is dumping genetically modified mosquitoes by the
I've heard about that
out of airplanes. Guess what? Those look like little black clouds coming off of airplanes. And you can sit there and say, oh, that's a conspiracy thing. Okay, well, it is happening. And the guise is, oh, we'll get rid of West Nile virus if we just get these mosquitoes out there. Law of unintended circumstances.
Oh,
People
boy.
should really go back and watch Jurassic
Is this
Park.
like
Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Is this like private planes or is this like Southwest Flight 2380?
No, it's not Southwest Trip Flight 2380. From my looking into it and the folks that I get to talk to, it is actually private aircraft, private contractors.
That's interesting. So now I'm going to start watching. So I play with my phone and I'll look and be like, oh, that's, Minnesota to
So
Seattle.
two states have actually legislated this away from their state.
Tennessee?
Louisiana and Tennessee.
Okay.
I do know, and I'm not going to say the representatives' names here, but I do know it's going to be a legislative initiative coming up in the Idaho legislature.
Yep.
And I would say for people from a pilot to the great people of Idaho, you better support that.
So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So obviously this kind of borders on a conspiracy theory, right?
Of course.
So, but if you could put a law into place to render something ineffective,
Yeah.
then is it really a conspiracy theory?
No.
If they're going to comply with a new law that you put in,
Right.
That's what I was just
then
thinking.
it's obviously known, right? I mean, is it really that conspiracy theory, or is it the fact that we're just dumb and we don't know where to find the information anyways?
Right.
As to I can't look up where are chemtrails. Like I don't even know where I would look that up to see
I
documentation.
imagine there's always some psyop where they get people to believe that it is a conspiracy theory because that
There's
will
a lot of
immediately turn off a huge section of the population.
Information war is exactly that
Right.
way. That what they love is they love the term chemtrails because chemtrails means you're wearing you're in your mom's basement and you're wearing tinfoil hat.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
That's the word. But if it's aerial dispersed climate solutions, well, it's the same thing. But
Yeah.
but that doesn't sound so tinfoil hattish. That actually sounds like a contract that Billy's crop dusters got going on.
Yeah.
So
That's
I think
super
they ought
interesting.
to start spraying testosterone over some of these big cities. Maybe that
I'd
that
love
would
that.
just
I would so
fucking
love
masculinity back. Let's
that. Yeah. We got to get the microplastics out of the boys.
go. Yes.
Yep.
100%.
This is crazy. We might have to figure out a time to get you back on.
Oh yeah.
I think we might have. Newsweek, we'll continue to blur you out.
Yeah.
It's all good until your contract changes,
Yep.
and let us know. We're gonna let
That's
everybody
right.
see your pretty face. So
What before we sign off here, we're getting close. But
Yeah.
what does K-SURG need to help build it up in the community? Because it seems like a really good idea.
I appreciate that. Our top 2 priorities right now are communications. So we need support in setting up repeaters around here. We're blessed with these wonderful mountains. We want people to have access to information. So communications, and we need reps in the neighborhoods, all the neighborhoods of Kootenai County. We want somebody who will sit there and say, I will hold the radio. I will set up the barter group. I will warn my neighbors that we got to stay together here now for a while because the comms are down, and those are our big muscle moving parts right now. So we're in need of donations. We're in need of folks who want to be in those neighborhoods. And I honestly, if I had to pick one thing I'm a businessman, so normally I would say the money first.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that. The one thing that can keep us safe is somebody in every single one of these neighborhoods that will watch, report, and receive, so that we can keep our people safe.
I love it.
And that's the most
That's
important.
super cool.
I'll link the website into the
I
show
appreciate
notes.
that.
Yeah, so we can get that information out there. How has local government embraced the idea? Are they on board?
Yeah, they are. I think for the most part, we've got a lot of really supportive people.
Okay.
I've been consulting with some officials on things that they can do for our first responders, should they see some problems with communications and that kind of thing, and where to place your financial bets in the budget as to how to mitigate some of the risks. The thing is, we have a first responder force in the county that is a little light for our population, quite seriously. So you want them to have their cars. You want them to be enabled to be out on the roads. You want them to not have to worry about a grid down situation, keeping the gas from coming up out of the ground and going into those cars. We need to support them. We need to put them out. I mean, there's a time to take local politics and set it off to the side. And that's where my mind is. I could care less if I don't want you to be in this particular elected role. What I want is you to be successful. So even the ones that when I'm on social media going, man, I'm not going to vote for that one, or I'm not going to do this one. I want everybody who's been elected by this county to be successful in a storm.
Yeah.
And that's what we should all want, really.
Yeah,
I think there's
super.
also a really untapped resource here in that the retired first responders up here, it is
I know.
that is almost
It's
every
a blessing.
client. It's incredible how many are up here.
Mhm.
And you know what I mean? Like, man,
And not one of them has ever told me that K-SURG is not a good idea.
Well,
In
that's
fact,
good.
they're all
That's
like,
awesome.
yeah.
we got to pull this all together.
So finding a way to tap into that community too, you know what I mean? Because the experience level there is unbelievable.
It is.
How many guys and gals out here have done those jobs for a long time, and they'd be like itching like me and Dave to put the duty belt back on and go to work,
Absolutely.
right? Especially for your own community in a time when you need it.
Without handcuffs. Without.
That's why God created
handcuffs.
zip ties.
Excellent. Thank you very much, General Holt. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
That was a very entertaining and informative conversation.
Yeah, fun period.
We
We
are
look
definitely
forward
gonna
to
have
it
you
the
back
next
out.
time. What type
I'll
of
look
what
forward
type
to
of
it.
whiskey you like?
You know what?
Any of those?
The Wellers.
All right.
Yeah, Wellers.
I think an
beautiful.
evening podcast at some
Oh,
point
a
should
The
little
be
bit of
good.
evening
bourbon.
podcast might be in order.
I'm in a good mood around
I'll tell you what,
7:30, 8
if I
o'clock
get
at
the
night.
Wellers, I will talk about Area 50.
Oh, done. There it is.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Catch you next time, guys.